The Google Maps Iceberg explained. Google Map allows users from all across the world to explore anywhere they want in the world in a matter of seconds and in their place of comfort. For this Iceberg Explained video, we'll be looking at Google Maps and exploring some of its wonders. Now for this video, there's some potential entries that are not safe for work, but there shouldn't be any worries as these entries will be blurred out and I will try my best to describe most things in great detail. But before I begin, I would like to thank Samitis for making this Google Maps iceberg chart and for helping me with some of the entries. Also, before going any further, I would like to announce that today's sponsor is Honeygain. Do you want to make money with no effort? Meet Honeygain, a magical app that makes you cash just for keeping it running in the background. Okay, hear me out. It won't cover your living expenses, but it can get you a free Netflix or Spotify subscription every month. Doesn't that sound great? All you have to do is install Honeygain on your device and that's it. That's literally it. Basically, you're making money just by sharing your internet connection, and don't worry, the app doesn't collect any personal data and doesn't ask for any storage device. Your internet connection is used by businesses to retrieve various info from the web, such as information about prices. Best deal sites need to compare prices from different regions, and that's where Honeygain comes in. Want to maximize your earnings? Connect 2 or more devices to different IP addresses. And also make sure your content delivering is active and running, not in queue. Also, people earn 10% of their referrals earnings daily, as referrers earn a 10% recurring commission. Whenever you have $20, you can withdraw your money to PayPal or choose BTC payment. This sounds too good to be true. Well, yes, but this is legit. Tens of thousands of Honeygain users have posted their payment proof to show off, and there's been a ton of positive reviews regarding the app. So don't wait any longer. Use my code GUBBY when signing up or click the link in the description down below and enjoy the first $5 added to your account when you sign up. So now with everything out the way, this is the Google Maps Iceberg Explained. Rome's cat. Rome's cat was claimed to be discovered by Velocity on Twitter, as the person posted pictures of a Google Street View of 2 cats. Specifically, this picture right here is the one that became viral. It was then announced that this site was taken in Argentina, specifically at Largo de Toria, Argentina, which is a sheltered home and sanctuary for cats, in which volunteers feed, clean, and look after them. And yes, this is a real thing. As of today, the street view is updated as currently just shows the sanctuary itself and there's not a single sight of a cat. I've even tried to go back into Google Maps archives and look at the history tab, but it brings you back to September 2017 only. The picture was taken in April of 2017, meaning it can't be viewed, which caused many people to be disappointed as they believed that the cat view was way better. UFOs. Now, there's a bunch of so-called UFO sightings on Google Maps from all across the world. There's been a ton of fake and realistic images and has caused a ton of debate regarding if the sightings should be taken seriously or not. Which brings up the question, should UFO snapshots on Google Maps be taken as serious evidence of extraterrestrial activity or not? You could do a quick Google search and find a ton of sightings dating back from the 1990s on Google Maps. I legit found a whole document of UFO sighting seen on Google Maps from everywhere, and the sightings have included descriptions from people who have witnessed them. This topic has gotten to the point that even the news has brought this up, and it does bring a new perspective towards UFO sightings. So are these UFO sightings real or not? I would like to think they're real, but then again the human eye can play a lot of tricks, and some photos could have possibly been tampered with, so there's no real answer for these images. North Korea. This entry covers a lot of questionable things that have been on Google Maps regarding North Korea. There's been reported cases of gulags being spotted, public executions, nuclear facilities, secret areas, and much more. You might ask yourself, how did it get away with this, and how did Google let this happen? And well, no one actually knows, but this is likely due to North Korea's censorship policies being so strict. Now, you can actually look up North Korea on Google Maps, and not all of it looks bad. For the most part, it can be seen as normal. But there's a theory that suggests that only certain parts of North Korea are shown on Google Maps, preventing people from seeing the true side of North Korea. And yes, there has been leaked photos of horrible things, but if you think about it, there could be way more. I don't want to go too much into this theory, but it's a good thing to have an optimistic mind about this topic. Buffaloes. There's been numerous screenshots of herds of buffaloes spotted on Google Maps. There's nothing really out of the ordinary for this entry. It's common for buffaloes to be traveling in a group, and it's just a unique thing that they were caught on Google Maps. Military bases. Google Maps has released a ton of major military bases from across the world. A majority of these bases are more well known compared to others, but there's also been some sightings of some secret bases that have been revealed for the public. Now, is this necessarily a good thing? That's up for debate, but if there's one thing that can come out of this, is that how did they even find these bases out? I looked at some of them and they honestly just look like regular buildings. Maybe I'm just dumb and have a lack of understanding of military bases, but then again, they're meant to be a secret, so I guess they're not that much of a secret if Google can find them. Two-legged cat. This entry deals with a cat that was seen on Google Street View that only had 2 legs. Now obviously this was a hoax and it's not actually a two-legged cat. But that didn't stop people from claiming that Google had taken a snapshot of a new cat breed. There was a bunch who were convinced that this had to be real, but no, it wasn't real. But the image actually came from the works of a Photoshop artist. The creator of the image took the original image of the cat and photoshopped it to look like an actual two-legged cat. The creator did fool a ton of people, so I guess they did accomplish their mission. Black spots. In certain areas on Google Maps, some places are blurred out with black dots. It's believed that Google is hiding certain areas, but for what? Why are these areas blurred out? Google hasn't really come forward on why or what in particular they're blurring out, but it does raise a ton of curiosity. People have suggested that these hidden places could possibly be secret high order elite buildings, secret government buildings, secret hideout areas, bases, and the list goes on. I guess the only real answer we'll get is if people actually travel to those areas, but that might be a risky solution. And with that, layer 1 is done. Let's move on to layer 2. Pigeon people. This Google Street View photo was taken on a sidewalk along Tamagawa-Jushi, which is in West Tokyo. At first, it was said that this was a staged prank from nearby students at an art school. However, it was later revealed that the group of pigeon people was actually made up of writers from the blog Daily Portal Z, in which they were informed that Google's camera would be in the area. They explained how they wanted to be noticeable on the actual street view without having their faces blurred, which is where the pigeon mask came in. Man falling down the stairs. Back in 2019 in Hoboken, New Jersey, a Google Maps card captured a man falling down a flight of stairs. The photos captured the man falling in real-time scenes, and it was at this moment it looked like he lost his balance. It actually looked painful judging by the way he fell, as he landed straight on his face. But it was later cleared up by a nearby woman who saw him fall that he was okay after the incident. This picture soon became viral after people thought it was funny. Google took note of this and blurred out the falling man at first and then completely got rid of the screenshot later on. The man's name was Irving de Jesus Espinal. Everyone knew him because of him falling, however sadly, after a couple months later, he passed away due to cancer, not because of the fall, but because he was battling cancer at the time. Flying rabbit. A user revealed that they found this picture of a flying rabbit on Google Maps in the city Biała Droga in Poland, but there's more than that to the story. If you move the camera before the hare is seen flying, you could see it on the ground trying to cross the road. Then there's the original image of the hare in the air. Then if you move the camera forward, you can see the hare back on the ground, which meant that the Google cart did in fact hit it, which is what caused it to be flying in the air. FU roof. A homeowner in Mississippi left this message on the roof specifically for Google after they denied to request to blur their home from its satellite view. The house is blurred when on street view, however it can be seen on satellite view. Technically Google can only blur things while on street view, but they have no control over satellite view as it's done by third-party providers. The house soon became viral and it was an attraction for many to see. It didn't take that long for people to figure out where the house was located. It was discovered that you could see the house from the next area over using Google Maps, which got people even closer to seeing the house. However, another user wanted to see it in person, so while working one day near the area, the user found the house and took a picture of it as they wanted to know if the sign on the roof was actually real or just photoshopped. And as seen on the internet, it was true. It was actually real. Mars and Moon. Google allows anyone to view the Mars and the Moon using Google Earth. Viewers can now explore the surface of the Moon and Mars. On Google Moon, you're able to navigate through the different Apollo missions and you can see some clips that have been recorded on certain areas of the Moon. Also, you can take measurements on the Moon using the measurement tool that's provided. On Google Mars, you basically do the same functions. However, there's different areas and regions to be explored. Whales. Similar to the buffalo's entries, there's been numerous shots of whales that can be seen on Google Maps. Some of the images include them in groups, by themselves, some showing off their splashes, and others just coming up for air. Anything that's related to seeing animals on Google Maps is pretty cool since they're actually somewhat rare to see since the timing has to be spot on. Big rabbit. The giant pink rabbit in Italy, also known as Haze, has appeared on the Coleto Fava mountain in North Italy since 2005. The art collective group Coletin were the creators of the rabbit, and when asked why they created it, they stated that it was supposed to make visitors feel like they're Lilliputians from Gulliver's Travels. It didn't take long for people to find the proper coordinates for the rabbit on Google Maps, and it quickly became a surprising sight for many. Sadly, however, the rabbit is going to last only until the year 2025, and it's already starting to naturally decompose. Back in 2005, the rabbit was very bright pink, but now it's a very dull grey and it's slowly rotting. It doesn't even look like a rabbit anymore. There's no plans to save it or even move it, so after 2025, the rabbit will be gone forever. Dick Church. Yes, this actually is a real thing, however the shape of the church was never intended. It was built this way because the architects had to redesign the church after contaminated soil was found beneath the church. During construction, the staff of the church wanted a long hallway, so that a lot of natural sunlight would be let into the building. However, there was a big oak tree growing in the south of the building, so they had to curve the hallway in order for it to still be long, and well, that's what happened. To poke fun at the church even more, this picture was posted which showed the church peeing. And that concludes layer 2, layer 3 is on the way. Rainbow plane. An image of a rainbow-themed airplane became viral on Reddit. It then quickly came to the conclusion that the actual aircraft wasn't rainbow colored, it was actually white, which can be seen in the image. The rainbow effect came from the camera itself. Satellite cameras have multiple cameras that capture images in different wavelengths of light. It's common that there's one main camera that has a high resolution and then other cameras that take quick photos with a ton of color filters. If the camera takes a photo of fast moving objects, in this case the aircraft, it would have moved quickly enough between the camera exposures, which would have caused the rainbow effect to be seen. There's even been other cases where the same rainbow effect has been spotted on other aircrafts, which essentially the camera would also cause the same effect. The murder doc. Now at first glance this looks like a dead body in a murder scene, but let me tell you it's the complete opposite and not gruesome at all. This scene was quickly debunked by a group of redditors after someone posted this picture on Reddit, claiming that this murder scene was near his house in Almere, Netherlands. A user named BennyBoy1337 pointed out that it looks like a dog that just got out of the water and walked off the dock while dripping water, which would cause the effect of the wet wood to appear red. Other redditors even mapped out the image, clearly showing every bit of detail and how it was just two people and a dog playing fetch on a dock. To put even more evidence in this picture, other users looked up the coordinates on Google Maps and zoomed out of the original snapshot, where you can see people nearby walking and biking right by the dock, meaning if it was an actual crime scene, the people nearby would have seen it easily. To top it off, the actual owners came forward and confirmed it was just him and his dog. Another mystery solved by Reddit. Masked people. This image shows a group of masked men looking at the Google streetcar. This was captured on the outskirts of Nacozari de Garcia, a small mining town in Mexico's north. There's very little context surrounding this image as there's no idea why the masked people did this. Maybe they saw the Google streetcar from a distance and decided to wear a mask and pose up, or maybe they were already wearing the mask. At this point, who knows? The picture is a complete mystery. Google car pulled over. There's been a couple of snapshots of cop cars pulling over Google streetcars. For example, back in 2015, a self-driving Google car was actually pulled over. The reason for being pulled over was because it was going too slow and it was causing a traffic jam, as it was going 24 miles per hour in a 35 miles per hour zone. In the end, there wasn't a ticket issued as there was no one driving the car. Google responded and said that they capped the speed of the vehicles at 25 miles per hour for safety reasons, as they wanted to feel friendly and approachable rather than it be zooming through the streets. There's been other cases in which Google cars have been pulled over, but they've pretty much been pulled over for the same reason once again, which is going too slow or just because of accidental turns while driving, so all cases are pretty similar. Underwater ship. The clip shows a supposed underwater sunken ship in Oshima Island, Japan. At first, it was theorized that it was the same remains of a ship named the Tugro back in the 1980s. However, this was completely debunked after people were talking about two different ships at two different locations. Others have suggested that it's possibly the Titanic, but that's completely wrong. A user on Reddit did extensive research on the sunken ship and found some other possible records of ships relating to the one in the image, and there was no correlation. The user even found a Q&A session where someone explained that there was no record of any shipwrecks in that area at all. Finally, it came to the conclusion that the boat wasn't actually there. When looking in 3D view, all the other boats and surroundings were 3D except for the ship, as it stayed 2D. Which meant that the ship was just a glitch from a long exposure shot from another boat that left the dock. Creature on the balcony. This alien-like creature can be spotted on a balcony in France. Many concerns began to rise, and people actually thought it was a creature after Google blurred it on Street View, but it was then revealed that this creature was actually confirmed to be a sculpture/statue. Also, the reasoning behind the statue being blurred is likely due to Google's automated censorship. Lady of the North. The Lady of the North is a piece of public art built into the landscape of Cramlington in Northumberland. Made from the products of the open cast mine, the figure is created in layers. When making this, Katie Perkin, the communication manager for the Banks Group, she said it costed $3 million for us to create Northumberlandia, and how they wanted to give something back. With the project, they heard that there were some local concerns about a negative effect on tourism, so they decided to go one step further than usual and create a tourist attraction for them to leave their legacy. When looking at this through Google Maps, you can only appreciate the time and effort put in, as you can clearly see it in great detail even while looking online. Kidnapper House. Whenever something is blurred on Google Maps, there's usually a reasoning behind it, and in this case, the house is blurred for a very good reason. 2208 Seymour Avenue was home to a man named Ariel Castro. In the blurred house, he held 3 women captive there for over a decade, in which inside the house, authorities have discovered the tapes and chains that were used against him. Castro's neighbors had some suspicion against him, as he apparently rarely left the house, and he wouldn't hear many noises from the house either. Eventually, after the event, both Castro's house and the neighbor's house have been torn down, and flowers have been put there instead, which can be seen on Google Maps. What the man has done is inhumane and cruel. Removing the property doesn't fix the problem, but it's one way of forgetting about his horrible actions in that house. Big Crab. This image of a gigantic crab in Woodsable Harbor became viral after it was posted on a site titled Weird Woodsable. The creator of the website, Quentin Winter, explained how a follower sent him the picture of the crab. He also explained how he himself saw the crab before with his son, and he goes on to explain its movements and body features. With all the evidence he provided, it was later figured out that he was lying the whole time. The original picture was taken from Bing Maps, and someone photoshopped the crab onto the picture, making it a complete hoax. Honestly, it's still kind of hard to believe that people would seriously think that a crab that big would be so out in the open, and till this day, people are still claiming the picture to be real, even though it's been disproven. Swastika Building. The Coronado Naval Base was created all the way back in 1967. And when designing it, they had no idea that the satellite imagery was going to be a thing, and well, this came to haunt them many years later, when it was discovered that the top of the roof resembles the swastika symbol. When building it, there was no intention on purposely recreating the symbol by using the buildings. It was just an issue with the placement of the buildings. Many people were outraged about this, mistake or not. So the US Navy declared that they would spend over $600,000 to change the appearance of the building, in which they did by using solar panels, new landscaping, and structural changes. They promised that, and well, they ended up with this. Basically no changes, and it still looks like the original building. Red Sea. This entry refers to the blood red lake that was spotted in Baghdad, Iraq. There have been various stories regarding how the lake turned red. At first, some suggested that the local butchers threw animals in there after cutting them, and dumped the blood into the lake. However, this would mean that the water would appear more brown. Others suggested that dead bodies were dumped there, but there's no solid evidence to back that theory up. Then it came to the conclusion that it was likely the result of chemical pollution. Severe increases in salt levels are known to cause water to turn blood red, which means that the organisms could have caused a bloom of red color algae to grow. This was compared to Lake Irma in Iran, as basically the same thing happened, as the water there was once normal, but then it turned to a blood red lake due to high salt levels and light intensity. Angel. This street view captured a woman with wings and was depicted to be an angel, but this was quickly proven to be an error on Google Maps' part. The image captured both the woman with a bird in the same shot, which is why it looks like she has wings on her back. And with that, layer 3 is complete. Let's look at layer 4. Kazakhstan pentagram. In a remote part of Kazakhstan, there's a view of a pentagram that's supposedly only visible from the sky. The pentagram is linked with occult movements, and some even suggested that the area could be an ancient Satanist monument. There's almost no signs of human habitation in the area, as the closest settlement is the city of Lysychansk, which is around 20 kilometers away. So what is this symbol and how was it created? Well, archaeologist Emma Uzunova explained the pentagram like this. It's the outline of a park made in the form of a star. The star was a popular symbol during the Soviet era and was often used to decorate buildings, flags, and monuments. The star in the lakeside park is marked by roadways that are now lined with trees, which makes the star shape even more distinct in aerial photos. Ghost Girl. This image captured a girl that looks like a ghost in the Martha Chapel Cemetery in Huntsville, Texas. The girl was seen hiding behind a tree and looks strangely gray, which many thought to believe that she looked like she became a ghost, but that's not the case. Also, while others focused on the girl, some people saw a reddish figure in the background and they believed that it was a Grim Reaper, and that both the girl and the Grim Reaper were connected together somehow. Okay, that's enough of series. A user posted a video on YouTube regarding the site, and if you look at the pinned comment, there's a man who explains how the picture was actually his daughter, and she was hiding while he was taking a panoramic photo using Google Street View map. He also mentions how if you swing the shot 180 degrees, you can see him and his wife off to the side. Also, that hooded figure that was likely seen is a leaf or a branch hanging off the tree. So once again, there's nothing sinister about this image. Man pointing a gun at the camera. This view shows 5 people sitting outside a house in Detroit, Michigan, which then takes a quick turn as one of the guys holding a gun in front of the Google car. As you keep changing the views, it shows that the guys notice the car and it looks like they don't like the presence of it, so that causes the guy to aim the gun at him. He never fired the gun, but there's another story to this picture. The house was linked to the site of a mysterious death. The body of a 1-year-old child was found dead in a house that looked exactly like the one shown in the picture. The officers couldn't confirm if it was exactly the house, but there were some similarities. The event of the death happened in 2012, however the image of the guy holding the gun was taken in 2009. So many question if there was a possible correlation between these two events, but they're probably unrelated. Sudan lips. Near Arawala, Sudan, a shape that looks like a pair of lips can be seen in the sand and can only be seen looking at it from above. The black dots and the tree surrounding the area both create the shape of lips. Also, the shape of lips looks more realistic since it's on a small hill, which gives it the effect. There's no real answer on how this was created. The locals have suggested and believe that the lips one day actually spoke to the sky and asked it for terrain, since it barely rains in the area. Face in the clay. This face can be seen in the Badlands Guardian in Alberta, Canada. The entire area contains these clay-based natural shapes that have been formed by the erosion of rainwater on layers of clay-rich soil. Looking from above, it's clearly shown that a face makes an appearance. However, on ground level, the face is actually a valley that has been eroded into the clay. Dog chasing people's car. A dog in Japan's Kagoshima prefecture was captured on Google Maps following a Google car. The images show moments before the dog notices the car. As the car goes forward, the dog takes off chasing the car and following it down the road. The dog then stops following it as it drives further away from the dock. Donkey killed by Google car. Users spotted a street view scene in Gwanang, Botswana that featured a donkey that first appeared to have been ran over by a Google car, which then caused the photo to go viral and many people were infuriated towards the driver of the Google car. Google then came forward and explained how the donkey actually wasn't killed, as they explained that the car approached the donkey while it was already lying down and walked up afterwards uninjured. This whole street view image is based on perspective. The viral image showed a perspective in which it may look like the donkey got hurt, but the true perspective showed it lying down on the ground before the car came. The photo was shown in the wrong order. The donkey was simply rolling around in the dust, which is quite common, and as soon as it saw the car pull up, It got up and went to the side. Lost baby. This appears to be a normal image outside of a Gucci store in the middle of the day until you notice that there's a small little baby off to the side of the image with not a single person on site looking after the baby. People have suggested that maybe the parents are just out of the shot, but still, a baby left on the ground by itself is not a good look. There's no explanation as to why the baby was left alone, and no one has come forward to take responsibility for it. And with that, layer 4 is done. Let's look at layer 5. Ice Ship. A YouTuber, Mr. MBB333, published a video that appeared to show an ice ship that measured over 400 feet in length on the coast of Antarctica, just beneath New Zealand. Many people believed in sinister related theories about the ship, claiming it to be related to aliens, World War II, government officials, and so on. But there's not enough evidence to back that up, and there's been no confirmation surrounding on how the ship got there, and no correlation to anything. Others have suggested that this is a result of pareidolia, which is an effect that causes the brain to see shapes, structures, and patterns in areas where they don't exist. Antarctica itself hasn't been investigated that much, so there's very little knowledge surrounding the area, and there's a ton of things that need to be discovered. There's most likely other hidden things that we just aren't aware about. Ghost Man. This entry could refer to many things, as there have been many sightings of a ghost man. There's this picture who shows a fixture that looks like a man, but it's kinda hard to make out. Another one shows a man being visible on the mirror, but nowhere else in the store, but he could have just moved away when the picture was taken. And this picture shows a man who seems to be fading away and is completely transparent. However, this was likely an error in camera splicing. If the man was moving while this picture was being taken, this transparent-like effect would happen. All these things mentioned are probably not sinister at all, so there's likely no true ghost man. Blonde tourist legs. This picture shows a woman with some weird looking legs as they appear to be bent backwards at the knee. Like some of these entries, it was just a glitch with the camera. The woman was likely moving when the images were taken, which would have resulted in this strange picture. Ever since this was discovered, this woman has been compared to as an alien and a kangaroo/human hybrid. Axe murder. This axe murderer scene was actually proven to be pranked by both the guys in the picture, Dan Thompson and Gary Kerr. They improvised the scene after spotting the Google car roaming around the area. They explained, "We just thought we had to do something. This opportunity wasn't coming around very often, so Gary grabbed a pickaxe handle and we ran onto the street. Gale Street is a U-shape, so we had about a minute before it would pass us. We had to go around the park to take various shots, so that gave us some time. We decided really quickly what to do, and I laid down while Gary stood over me with a pickaxe handle. We had forgotten about it when the police arrived a year later, and we apologized for wasting police time. They found it funny. So yeah, it was just all one big prank." Oak Bay Snake. A giant sea-like creature was spotted in the water of Oak Bay, located in New Zealand. Peter Watera, the man who spotted the creature on Google Earth, explained how the creature was estimated to be around 12 meters in size and appeared to be too big for a shark and was moving too fast and sharply to be a whale. So was this a new sea creature that was just discovered? Not exactly, as people came up with other ideas. For one, the lack of frost around the boat can be explained by the boat driver slowing down a bunch of times due to the rocks in the water. The angle of the wake edge makes sense with the idea, as the boat has clearly been going faster before. Now for the long dark trail, there's a couple of things that could have caused this, such as the boat could have had a jet ski with an underwater exhaust, leaving a trail of bubbles which would change the reflection of the surface. People have suggested that the vehicle that could have been used was the Sea Breachers, since it drives at an intense speed, and if you don't believe me, watch this.
Right back there.
Oh my god, I am beyond alright. This thing's amazing.
Oh, we haven't even opened the door yet.
The Sea Breacher is designed to perform high-speed dive.
Also, these vehicles are available in New Zealand, so this idea is pretty reasonable. Broken face. This half-broken face was found by the Google Maps team after traveling around in the grassy fields of Netherlands. There's no explanation on how it got there and why it's shattered. My only prediction is that it's a part of someone's artwork and they left it there, but there's no real confirmation or answer for this entry. Prisoner escaping. This view shows a potential prisoner making a mad dash from prison, but it turns out he might not actually be an escaping convict. A couple people on Reddit suggested that he was just a worker. One suggested that he's a worker from South Africa. Looking at a different angle on the back of his suit, you can see the letters CWF. Another person said he could have worked for a mining facility in San Antonio called Carltonville. And CWF could have stood for Carltonville Working Force. It was later found that he did work in Carltonville, South Africa, as more pictures resurfaced of him working with other people. Not sure if he works at a mining facility, however if there's one thing for sure, he is a worker and not a prisoner on the run. A van on fire. This footage shows a white van caught on fire on a driveway in Toronto, Canada. Garfield Pert, the owner of M&M Garage Door Services, was inside the garage of a home or working on the garage door. He then heard the voice of a child coming from the other side of the door he was installing. The child told him that the van was on fire. He then looked out the garage door window and saw the van on fire. He had to move his red van out of the way while the other van was on fire, and moments after he moved the van, the white van blew up. Thankfully, no one was hurt in the situation and nothing was damaged. Well, except the white van, but you know. Plane in the forest. This image may look like someone spotted an abandoned plane in the middle of a forest, however this isn't the case, as someone actually lives in that plane. The owner of the plane, Bruce Campbell, bought himself a Boeing 727 back in 1999 to live in. The plane however isn't his actual main home, as he will live in the plane for 6 months and spend the rest of the time in Japan. The aircraft is equipped with running water, electricity, a shower, and a toilet, basically all the essentials it needs. He even lets people take a visit to his home if they wish, and if you search up the plane on Google, the house has a bunch of Google reviews and most of them seem to be good ones. Mr. Campbell mentions how all planes should be made into homes, as shredding them after they're done is a waste and profound failure of human imagination. Not a bad way of looking at it. Would you guys ever want to live in a plane? Gas mask guy. A Google Map hiker came face to face one day while exploring the area with a man in the forest wearing a gas mask. Some of the biggest concerns with this image was why was this guy alone in the forest, why was he in a weird crouching position, and why was he wearing a mask? The hiker then left the scene and the guy in the mask didn't do anything, so it could have been just a weird encounterment. And that was the end of layer 5, let's look into layer 6. Azura BB1. This entry refers to a 9-year-old girl named Azura BB1 who appeared to look dead on Google Street View. This caused many people attention and shocked them to see such a horrific scene in Worcester, England. The truth later emerged as the dead body wasn't actually a dead body and the girl just played dead as a prank outside her home. She explained the situation by saying, "I didn't know anything about the Google Street View car. I fell over a while I was playing with my friend and thought it'd be funny to play dead. I'm quite chuffed I'm on the internet. It is quite funny, and I can't wait to tell my classmates when I get back to school." If you look at the Street View now, they decided to blur it out as it was deemed inappropriate, and even though it was proven to be fake, Google still blurred it out to prevent other people from seeing it and reporting it as a dead body. Teen murdered. This aerial photo shows 14-year-old Kevin Barrera dead on the ground, who was shot near a railway line in Richmond, California. The little boy was shot to death back in 2009, but it took Google until 2013 to finally blur out the image. A whole 4 years since the tragedy. When I see this image, it feels like it happened yesterday, and that brings me back a lot of memories, explained Jose Barrera, the father of Kevin. He also wanted Google to remove the photo, in which Brian McClellan, VP of Google Maps, responded by saying, "Google has never accelerated the replacements of updated satellite imagery from our maps before, but given the circumstances, we wanted to take an exception in this case. Looking at the picture now, it's covered by a black spot, in which Google wanted to respect Mr. Barrera's request to cover the photo." Body found 22 years later. The remains of a missing man were found after 22 years thanks to someone who used Google Maps. Barry Fade, the man who was informed, investigated his former neighborhood in Florida and noticed a sunken car in the pond, in which he immediately reported to the police. When investigated, the vehicle contained the skeletal remains of William Moult, a man who went missing in 1997 at the age of 40. Mr. Moult had disappeared after leaving a nightclub in Latana, Florida, all the way back in November 1997. He was meant to go home after hitting the club, but he never actually got there. The crazy thing is that this vehicle has been visible on the Google Earth satellite photo in the area since 2007, but wasn't noticed until 2019. So go do yourself a favor right now and Google Earth your home right now and check if there's anything odd you can find. Who knows what you'll see. New Baltimore Ghost Town. This entry refers to an old creepy Google Street View of New Baltimore, New York. If you checked out 84 Main Street in New Baltimore on Google Maps back then, it would show a ghost-like town version of it. The reason behind this was a technical failure on Google Maps side of the area. If you look up the area now, it looks normal. But some people still prefer to look at the old areas to, I don't know, get freaked out or for some sort of nostalgia. Children with guns. This entry is pretty self-explanatory. There's been a ton of images caught regarding children with guns. Some of these guns are fake, however some appear to be more realistic and might possibly have an evil backstory to them. Injury cow. Similar to the donkey entry early on, this Google car captured a cow that seems to be hurt and struggling. At first many claimed that the cow was hit by the car, but this can quickly be debunked as one user pointed out that the cow wasn't probably injured. It may have just slipped on the tarmac on the ground, as pictures taken a little earlier show that it was on its feet and doing well. 41 Marmul. This scene shows a dead body hanging off a building in Mexico. There's not that much information regarding this entry, so I can't go into that much detail. I won't show the uncensored picture as it's pretty disturbing, and what's worse is that Google actually left this for the world to see. And now that layer 6 is out of the way, let's move on to the last layer. End of the world sign. The screenshot shows a view of what appears to be the end of the world and coming with the directions to hell. Looking past the sign, there's nothing really to see except a long dirt track and desert. The sign is actually marking the end of a desert highway on the Mojave Desert, but I'm not sure what the word hell came from. Honestly, it was probably from someone who wanted to make a joke and be funny. Malaysian plane. The satellite imagery supposedly pinpointed the location of the missing MH370 Boeing 777-200 wreckage in central Cambodia. Ian Wilson, a British video producer, was the one who found the image on Google Maps and believed that it was the missing plane. But there's been many explanations and evidence stating that this isn't the missing Boeing plane. First of all, it was suggested that it could have simply been an aircraft flying directly below the satellite which photographed it, which actually made sense. A couple days after the discovery, a group of experts hired a helicopter scout to look around the area that was highlighted by Mr. Wilson, but nothing was found. In a tweet, Spaceview wrote, "Stakeholders and bystanders plead Spaceview to shoot at the site. So we found 3 images shot in 2015, 2016, and 2018 from our archive, in which they indicated no plane was found. So after that, it was probably the first idea suggested, which was that a plane flew by the exact time the satellite imagery occurred. And I know the odds of that happening are low, but then again there's been tons of images that have been caught at perfect timing." Dogman. A Google Maps user claimed to have found a humanoid beast lurking in the forest in which they believe could be a potential dogman. This theory claimed it to be a cryptid, which are paranormal animals that conspiracy theorists believe exist based on anecdotal evidence. There's not really any evidence to back up this post, as there's only the video, which could have been easily altered, and there's been no reports or sightings in the area of the supposed dogman. A lake in an island, and a lake in an island. There's a couple examples for this entry, such as the Tao Main Crater Lake in the Philippines. It was a lake on a volcano island in the Tao Lake and Luzon Island. However, it disappeared in 2020 after an eruption. Another example is the Victoria Island Lake, and there's many others across the world. These are just lakes and islands being formed by nature, and after looking at them, it's a pretty cool thing that nature can do these, as these formations aren't that uncommon. Man jumps in Google car. There's actually been a couple of instances of people showing a man jumping in a Google car. I've seen countless photos, however this exact one caught my attention the most. This one is just weird and kinda creepy, to be honest. There's very little context regarding this photo. The only information that's really given is that a man took a ride in a Google car in Brazil, and that's pretty much it. Rua Prefeito Osmar Cunha. The Brazilian street of Rua Prefeito Osmar Cunha seems like any other ordinary street, but a user discovered something while using the Google Street View that looked extremely freaky. If you go to a certain spot, the whole street will turn into complete darkness. If you move around a little, you will see a greenish black human-like figure lurking behind you wherever you move. This is most likely a glitch on Google Maps part, but it's still a creepy thing that can be encountered and caught many by surprise when it was first discovered. And that wraps up the iceberg. Honestly, looking back at this chart, there were a ton of entries that I haven't heard about, and there are many other entries that could have been on this chart that didn't make the cut. If you guys know any other entries that didn't make this chart, but still find it interesting, feel free to leave them in the comments, as I'm always eager to hear about more findings on Google Maps. If you guys have any criticism towards any of the entries I mentioned, or believe that I was wrong about some of the parts, feel free to leave them in the comments as it helps with my understanding of the chart. Once again, thank you to Samitis for creating this chart and helping me with some of the entries. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. If you like these types of videos, please consider subscribing as I will continue to make more in the near future. But anyways, thanks for watching and have a great one.